A passenger was traumatically injured after falling from a golf cart. A $2.3 million house boasting a 4-car garage is for sale. A driver in the Villages was ticketed after knocking over a golf cart on Morris Boulevard. A convicted child molester was arrested after working out in a gym in the Villages. A grandson was jailed after an outburst after a denial to enter a recreation center. A hit-and-run suspect was tracked down after hitting a power pole. ICE has put a hold on another unlicensed driver. A convicted felon from New York was arrested with a loaded gun. A retired New York police officer was arrested after drinking at Wildwood. A woman with a long criminal history was arrested after a standoff at a home in the Villages. A villager at Lake Sumter Landing was caught with her pants down. We have some updates on a man that did a brutal attack on an elderly couple in the Villages. And we have an update on the lady that fell out of the golf cart and passed away on her husband who was charged. How many holes in ones of golf did we get this week? Letters to the editor. This and more coming up. Well, thanks everybody for coming to this week's news. I got a couple of updates that I think are fairly important, so let's get them out of the way. The medical records are being sought for a woman who fatally fell from a golf cart last month in the Villages. Kelly Novit, 60, died March 9th after falling from a golf cart driven by 58-year-old Richard Allen Keel of the village of Rio Ponderosa. He is facing a charge of DUI manslaughter. Novit, the daughter of a villager, was remembered in a funeral on March 22nd in Chicago. Keel remains free on a $50,000 bond. The prosecutor's office wants to see Novit's medical records from the ambulance crew, UF Health Spanish Plains Hospital in the Villages, and Ocala Regional Medical Center. Novit was initially taken to the hospital in the Villages, but was transferred to the trauma center in Ocala when doctors realized the seriousness of the head injury she had suffered when she hit the pavement with her head. She died at the Ocala hospital within hours of the fall. The prosecutor's office will no doubt want to see the records as it builds its case against Keel. That'll be his update. Here's an update of a long time ago incident. Real quick. Guy knocks on a door. Old people answers the door. He says he's dying of thirst and needs a drink of water. They give him a glass of water. He wanted to know if he could use their phone because his car was broke down and wanted to call somebody. They let him in the house. Wrong move right there. He gets in the house. He keeps them as prisoners, basically. And here's his update. A man accused of brutally attack of an elderly couple in Villages will face a trial this week. Judge Timothy McCork ruled last week that no more continuances will be granted for 56-year-old Robert Connor II, who is facing multiple charges. A trial is set this week in Marion County Court. The 91-year-old wife and her 89-year-old husband had been cleaning up after breakfast when they heard a knock on their front door. The husband, who was confined to a wheelchair due to a broken hip, was in the kitchen and his wife answered the door, according to the arrest report from the Marion County Sheriff's Office. Connor was at the door, sweating profusely, and asked for water. The wife allowed him into their home and gave him a glass of water. He sat down at the kitchen near the sliding glass door. The former prison inmate asked to use the phone, and the wife allowed him to use the landline. She noticed that he was faking like he was calling someone. When he got off the phone, Connor told the couple he needed gas money. The husband pulled out his wallet and the wife handed Connor $35. He said this was not enough and began demanding more money. He also asked the couple for their bank account information. And that'll be the update. There's more to it, but you've already heard it on here once before. Well, that'll be all the updates we have, so let's get on with some more news. Welcome everybody to this Friday's news, and thanks for subscribing and thanks for coming and watching the news. Don't forget to leave a comment below. A passenger was traumatically injured after falling from a golf cart in the Villages. The golf cart was traveling in the golf cart lane at about 8 p.m. Friday near Cypress Recreation Center when the passenger fell to the asphalt, according to the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. The injured passenger was transported by ambulance as a trauma alert to Ocala Regional Medical Center. And I mentioned it before, and I'll just mention it again. The reason why all traumatic injuries go to Ocala is because the Villages As big as it's getting, we still don't have a trauma center here. The driver of an automobile was ticketed after knocking over a golf cart in a collision on Morris Boulevard in the Villages. The vehicle and the golf cart were both southbound on Morris Boulevard at about 12:30 p.m. Friday when the vehicle driver made a right-hand turn onto Santa Marino Drive, according to the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. The vehicle struck the golf cart, knocking it onto its side. The driver of the golf cart was transported by ambulance with non-life-threatening injuries to UF Health Spanish Plains Hospital. The driver of the automobile was cited for making an improper turn. I'm just going to say real quick, you've heard me talk about these things before. A car will turn right in front of a golf cart, not even thinking about it, and that's what happens. A hit-and-run suspect has been tracked down after hitting a power pole in the Villages. Mark Warning, 66 of Leesburg, pleaded not guilty this past week in Sumter County Court to a charge of leaving the scene of an accident. Warning is charged with hitting a power pole in the wee hours February 5 at Marsh Bend Trail and Lawler Loop in the village of Marsh Bend. He was driving a tan 2005 four-door Toyota when he hit the power pole and caused $1,500 worth of damage, according to a ticket issued by the Wildwood Police Department. A warrant was issued for his arrest, and he was picked up earlier this month by the Florida Highway Patrol in Leesburg. He was initially booked at the Lake County Jail and later transferred to Sumter County, where he was being held without bond. Anybody out there looking for a $2 million house? A $2.3 million listing in the Villages boasts a 4-car garage and a panoramic golf course view. The 4-bedroom St. Augustine premier home with 2.5 baths is located at 1721 Sunset Ridge in the village of Sunset Ridge at Sunset Point near the Cane Garden Country Club and Hibiscus Recreation Center. That's a beautiful area up there. The 4-car garage includes a 2-car area, which has been extended in length to accommodate extra long cars. There are built-in cabinets in the garage. All floors in the house are in tile. The living and dining room have crown moldings. There is a sliding glass door between the living room and the lanai that opens the area for entertainment. There are 11 closets in the house, one of which is cedar-lined. There are glass shelves dividing the living room and foyer that are beautifully designed with underlighting and display crystal pieces. There are 2 chandeliers. One stays with the house. The dining room chandelier is negotiable. There is room for a pool. The entire roof was replaced in 2023. The 2024 taxes were $8,959. I will reserve comment. A 37-year-old woman was arrested on a pair of warrants Tuesday in the Villages. Rebecca Jean Parks was taken into custody Tuesday at the Double Palms Villas in the village of Duval. Parks was wanted on warrants charging her with driving under the influence and driving while license suspended. The New York native was taken into custody and booked at the Sumter County Detention Center. She was released after posting a $1,500 bond. A villager has been arrested on a drunk driving charge after crashing his golf cart into a tree. Scott Darren Lacus, 66, of the village of Hemingway, was found at the scene of the crash shortly before 6 p.m. Friday at Morris Boulevard and Bonita Boulevard, according to the arrest report from the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. A deputy who arrived on the scene found that Lacos, L-A-C-O-S-S, had eyes that were bloodshot and watery. He had a strong odor of alcohol coming from his breath. He stood up and stumbled from his golf cart to an EMS stretcher, which was a few feet away. The Manchester, Connecticut native admitted to EMS personnel that he had been drinking alcohol. The report noted that Lacoste had a soft cast on his right wrist from a previous injury. He indicated he suffered the injury when he fell at home. Lacoste attempted to participate in field sobriety exercises, but finally concluded he could not perform the exercise because he was drunk. He was transported to the UF Health Emergency Room Clinic at Brownwood. He had consented to a blood draw, and the results are pending, the report said. Lacoste was arrested on a charge of driving under the influence. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $1,000 bond. Let's hear what they got to say about Hooters again this week. Villager Chuck Quincy and his friends have been looking forward to the opening of new Hooters restaurants in the villages, but news of the company's bankruptcy this week had him worried about whether Hooters will open here. Well, first of all, that news wasn't this week. That's been going on for over a month that I know of. I know that in my community here are at least 10 individuals who will be most disappointed if Hooters is unable to open due to financial difficulties. All were looking forward to the grand opening, the Village of Dabney resident said. The good news is that construction of the new Hooters at Lake Deaton Plaza was continuing at a brisk pace this week, and Hooters has announced a restructuring plan that will keep many of its restaurants operating. The company's bankruptcy plan calls for 100 company-owned restaurants to be sold to a group of Hooters franchisees. The franchisees, who include Hooters founders, currently operate 14 of the 30 highest volume Hooters restaurants in the United States. For many years now, the Hooters brand has been owned by private equity firms and other groups with no history of experience with Hooters brand. Neil Kiefer, CEO of the franchise group Hooters Incorporated, said in a statement, "As a result of these transactions, the Hooters brand will once again be in the hands of highly experienced Hooter franchisees, and we will be well positioned to return this iconic brand to its historic success." Kiefer spearheads the group, bringing the new Hooters to Florida's friendliest hometown. Therefore, Hooter fans can take heart. Hooters is likely to open here this year. I don't know why everybody's so concerned about this bankruptcy thing. Outback filed bankruptcy months ago, too. And yet they built a new Outback here and just opened it recently. About a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. I didn't hear no uproar about that. Why is all of a sudden the bankruptcy of Hooters a big deal, but the bankruptcy at Outback, which was done almost the same time, nothing was ever said? You people are weird. A convicted felon from New York was nabbed with a loaded gun and drugs by a Sumter County Sheriff's deputy. Vincent William Aveni, 64, of Ocklawaha, was driving, I think that name's funny, Ocklawaha, was driving a Chevrolet Trailblazer at about 1:45 p.m. Thursday in the area of County Road 229 and County Road 222 in the Wildwood area when the deputy ran a license plate and discovered the vehicle's registered owner has a suspended license. Well, of course. During a traffic stop, Aveni claimed he was not aware his license was suspended. A canine unit arrived on the scene and the dog alerted on the vehicle, indicating the likely presence of drugs. A search of the vehicle led to the discovery of methamphetamine, drug paraphernalia, and a Taurus revolver loaded with .38 special ammunition, according to the arrest report. A criminal history check revealed that Aveni had been convicted of robbery in 1991 in Nassau County in New York. He was arrested on charges of possession of methamphetamine, possession of drug paraphernalia, driving on a suspended license, and possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center on a $14,000 bond. A retired New York city police officer was arrested after drinking at Brownwood Paddock Square. William Joseph Cuff, 65, who listed an address at the Thai Bungalow Villas in the village of Chitty Chatty, was found unresponsive at about 11:30 p.m. Tuesday in a black Hyundai utility vehicle in a ditch on State Road 44, according to an arrest report from Sumter County Sheriff's Office. The vehicle was running and the reverse lights were on. A deputy tried to rouse Cuff and eventually got him to roll down a window. Once the window was open, the deputy reached in and turned off the engine. The deputy asked Cuff if he had been drinking. "Yes, a little," he replied. Cuff said he had been at Brownwood Paddock Square. When asked for his driver's license, Cuff initially handed a deputy his credentials as a retired New York Police Department officer. He eventually provided the deputy with Florida driver's license. Cuff was asked to participate in field sobriety exercise, but he was so highly intoxicated that it was determined that having him participate in field sobriety exercises could be a health hazard. Cuff, who weighs 300 pounds, had trouble understanding instructions about how to sit in the back of the patrol car. After several failed attempts to get him to sit down in the car, deputies decided to lay him down because he could not sit under his own power. When they arrived at the Sumter County Detention Center, a deputy discovered Cuff had urinated himself during the drive. He refused to provide a breath sample. I gotta tell an officer, I'm sorry that these people pee in your car. You know these guys have got to clean this up, and it's just not fair. He was arrested on a charge of driving under the influence. He was booked at the jail and released after posting a $1,000 bond. Oh, Lord. You know he's going to get his ass chewed out by the judge. I can hear it now. You're a police officer. You should know better. A woman wanted on a warrant was arrested after a standoff Wednesday at a home in the Villages. Residents of Escondido Villas near Savannah Center said late in the afternoon they saw the Sumter County Sheriff's Office SWAT team arrive at a home at 1404 Azteca Loop. This must be the information that was sent to me by one of my subscribers. I couldn't get any info on it until 2 days later, maybe a day later, and so I just didn't come out with a report until now. The sheriff's office informed the public that a woman had barricaded herself in the home and refused to cooperate with law enforcement. The standoff ended early that night. The woman had been identified as 53-year-old Marjorie Martinka, that name sounds familiar, who listed her address at the Azteca Loop home. The Pennsylvania native was wanted on a Lake County warrant charging her with violating her probation on a charge of possession of methamphetamine. When she spotted the deputies approaching, Montica locked herself in the rear patio area of the courtyard villa. After she surrendered, she was booked without bond at the Sumter County Detention Center. Martika has a long criminal history. In 2016, she was ordered to serve 60 days in jail after an arrest for driving under the influence while she was at the wheel of a golf cart. In 2022, Martika was arrested on a historic site of the Villages after she admitted slapping her boyfriend. In 2024, she was arrested after methamphetamine was found in her golf cart. Later that same year, she was arrested with drugs when she was traveling in a pickup with a man from the village of Santiago. They just never learn. Never. A villager is back behind bars after violating her probation in a drunk driving arrest. Stacy Duro Fitzgerald, 62, of the village of Piedmont, was being held without bond at the Marion County Jail following her arrest last week on Lake County warrant charging her with violating her probation. In 2023, Fitzgerald's license was revoked for 5 years after an incident in August 2022 in which he crashed into a small tree, a carport attached to a residence, and a parked car at a home in the 800 block of Sharon Drive on a historic site of the Villages. Good Lord, could you hit anything else? Fitzgerald was severely intoxicated and taken to a local hospital rather than being immediately arrested. Tests later showed that Fitzgerald had a blood alcohol content level of 0.380, which the investigator noted was nearly toxic. Vodka bottles had been found in her car. She was also arrested in 2023 after her vehicle sustained a flat tire and was blocking traffic at Buena Vista Boulevard and Parr Drive. An investigation led to the discovery of vodka bottles in her vehicle. She provided 2 breath samples that each measured 0.305 blood alcohol content. She later lost her driver's license for 6 months, was placed on probation for 1 year, and was ordered to perform 80 hours of community service. You know, after all these tickets and driving while drunk, the insurance gets this information. I don't even know how these people can afford to have car insurance. A villager was caught with her shorts pulled down and urinating at Lake Sumter Landing after her SUV got a flat tire. Good Lord. Another motorist called 911 while following the white 2020 Kia Sportage at about 9:30 p.m. Saturday on Morse Boulevard, according to the arrest report of the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. The other motorist reported the SUV could not maintain its lane and hit the concrete curb, causing one of its front tires to go flat. The motorist relayed the license plate number to the 911 dispatcher. A deputy spotted the vehicle at the former home of Winn-Dixie on Old Camp Road. The deputy noticed an older white female crouched inside the open driver's door, sitting on the edge of the footboard with both legs out. She had her jean shorts pulled down around her thighs, urinating on the ground. When the woman noticed the deputy, she quickly pulled up her jean shorts. The SUV's engine was running. She was identified as 67-year-old Amy Lynn Griffin of the village of Alhambra. Her speech was slurred, and she had the strong odor of an alcoholic beverage coming from her breath. The Massachusetts native claimed she was driving from a friend's house when she got the flat tire. In plain sight in Griffin's vehicle was a High Noon vodka seltzer drink. She also had a Buc-ee's thermos, which also contained High Noon vodka seltzer. Griffin struggled and swayed through field sobriety exercises. She provided breath samples that registered .159 and .147 blood alcohol content. A criminal check revealed she had been convicted of driving under the influence in 2016 in Massachusetts. Griffin was arrested on a charge of driving under the influence and booked at the Sumter County Detention Center. She was released after posting a $1,000 bond. I guess when you gotta go, you gotta go. A convicted child molester was arrested after working out at a gym in the Villages. A Sumter County Sheriff's deputy was looking for 63-year-old Timothy Eugene Wadhams on a suspicion that he was not living at the address he had provided to law enforcement. Wadhams was convicted in 1996 of molesting a child in Tucson, Arizona, and is therefore required to register as a sex offender. The deputies went to Wadhams' last registered address at 4514 Bird Lane in the village of DeLuna and spoke with Wadhams' mother. She said her son had purchased a home at 3427 Melissa Lane in the Grady Villas, also in the village of DeLuna. Property records confirmed he bought the patio villa last year for $290,000. Wadhams' mother added that her son was likely working out at the Genesis Health Club at Brownwood. The deputy found Wadhams on Tuesday in the parking lot of the gym. In addition to not reporting his home address change, Wadhams had a 1986 Chevrolet Corvette with Arizona license plates. His mother told law enforcement that the Corvette belongs to her son. Wadhams, a native of Galesburg, Illinois, has a 2013 Jeep Patriot with Illinois license plates listed as his sole vehicle. He also failed to update his phone number. Wadhams was arrested on multiple sex offender violation charges and booked without bond at the Sumter County Detention Center. And yes, they could live in this retirement community next door to you. A 46-year-old man was arrested after causing a commotion when he was denied access to a card game at a recreation center in the Villages. Marion County Sheriff's deputies were called at about noon Monday to the First Responders Recreation Center after Anthony Santangelo, who lives with his elderly grandparents in Villa Valdosta in the village of Bel Air, allegedly grabbed a 70-year-old volunteer by her arm. Thanks, Grandma. Santangelo, who stands 6 feet tall and weighs 220 pounds, was told by a recreation center employee that he could not participate in a card game, as he has been previously barred from other recreation centers in Florida's friendliest hometown. After he was denied participation in a card game, Santangelo was yelling and acting irate. He grabbed a volunteer by her arm and said he wanted to talk to her. Who are you to tell us anything? You have no skin in the game here. A deputy found Santangelo outside the recreation center in the parking lot. He was very loud and was ordered to calm down. He kept pacing back and forth and did not follow the deputy's directives. Santangelo headed to his car to get a cigarette. The deputy ordered him to stop, but he did not comply. The deputy attempted to detain Santangelo, who kept pulling away. He would not cooperate with the deputy's efforts to put him in the patrol car. Instead, Santangelo yelled to his girlfriend and ordered her to video the interaction with the deputy with her phone. It took 2 deputies to ultimately secure Santangelo in the back of the patrol car. He was arrested on a felony charge of battery on a person over the age of 65 and a misdemeanor charge of resisting arrest. He was booked at the Marion County Jail and released after posting a $1,000 bond. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has slapped a hold on the detention of an unlicensed driver arrested on State Road 44. Mario Dominguez, 21, of Orlando, was driving a silver Chevrolet truck shortly before 9 p.m. Tuesday at State Road 44 at Interstate 75 in Wildwood when a Sumter County Sheriff's deputy noticed the truck did not have operable driver's side taillight. Dominguez did not speak English, and a Spanish-speaking deputy was summoned to the scene to translate. Through the translator, Dominguez indicated he does not have a driver's license issued in the United States. He also said he'd been operating the truck for employment. He was arrested on a charge of driving without a license and issued a warning for faulty equipment for an inoperable taillight. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center where a hold was put on his custody by ICE. A man from Mexico who paid $10,000 to a coyote to be smuggled into the United States was nabbed in Sumter County in a van displaying an American flag decal. Feliciano Romero, 53, was traveling as a passenger in a white Ford van with a Florida license plate at about 1 p.m. Wednesday southbound on Interstate 75 near Sumter County Rest Area when the van was pulled over for suspicious of illegally tinted windows, according to the arrest report from the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. Romero was identified by his Mexican identification card. He said he had paid $10,000 to a smuggler who helped him illegally cross into the United States. He indicated he had been picked up in Georgia and claimed he did not know the names of the other two occupants of the van. Romero had been denied entry into the United States in 2003 and at that time voluntarily returned to Mexico. The driver was identified as 27-year-old Dario Humberto Perez Ramirez, who admitted he did not have a driver's license. He had a Guatemalan identification card. He said they were traveling from Atlanta to Fort Myers. The third occupant of the van, 44-year-old Benedicto Gonzalez Perez, said he had been picked up in Valdosta, Georgia. He admitted he had entered the United States illegally through Arizona and Mexico border. He had been deported back to Mexico in 2020. All three men were determined to be illegal aliens. They were booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and will be returned over to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement or the U.S. Border Patrol. Two illegal aliens were arrested in a truck with heavily tinted windows on Interstate 75 in Sumter County. Raul De La O Gonzalez, 25 of Ocala, was driving the gray 2007 Ram 3500 pickup at about noon Wednesday southbound on I-75 near Bushnell when a trooper noticed that he was not wearing a seatbelt and initiated a traffic stop, according to a arrest report from the Florida Highway Patrol. When asked for a driver's license, De La O Gonzalez handed him a Mexican voter identification card. Don't you find that interesting that Mexican voters have to have an identification card to vote? Trooper learned that De La O Gonzalez was wanted on a Marion County warrant, charging him with driving without a license. A passenger was identified as 31-year-old Alfredo Salguero Ferrer. Name will be in the picture. Of Ocala. He had a New York driver's license. He said that he knew De La O Gonzalez did not have a license and should not have been driving. Salguero Ferrer said that De La O Gonzalez is his cousin. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol was contacted, and an agent told the trooper that there were no records of the men legally entering the country. The agent said the men do not have legal status in the United States. Both men admitted they had hired coyotes to smuggle them into the United States. Both men have been in the country for several years. How do you know that? A tint meter was used to test the passenger window and showed that the window was too dark. The truck also had a cracked windshield. De La O Gonzalez was being held at the Sumter County Detention Center with holds put on his custody by Marion County and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Salguero Ferrer was also booked at the jail. He was to be turned over to Border Patrol. Sorry, I can't pronounce these names. An unlicensed driver from Mexico was arrested after he failed to buckle up. Omar Jimenez Marcos, 25 of Bellevue, was driving a blue Chevrolet van at about 6 p.m. Thursday on US 301 at County Road 110 when a deputy noticed that he was not wearing a seatbelt, according to the arrest report of the Sumter County Sheriff's Office. During a traffic stop, Jimenez Marcos indicated he does not speak English and does not have a driver's license. He presented the deputy with a Mexican identification card that listed his Florida address. The deputy also learned that Jimenez Marcos is gainfully employed. He was arrested on a charge of driving without a license. He was ticketed for not wearing a seatbelt. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $150 bond. An employee was arrested with cocaine at a restaurant in the Villages. Sumter County Sheriff's deputies on Tuesday went looking for 33-year-old Dennis Joseph Desjardins of Oxford, who was wanted on a Hillsborough County warrant charging him with violating his probation on a charge of driving under the influence. Deputies went to his home, and they were told he was at work at the Tap House Social at Buffalo Ridge Plaza. That's where the old Red Lobster building was at. When deputies arrived at the restaurant, he began to handcuff Desjardins. He reached into his back pocket, pulled out his wallet, and attempted to toss it to his girlfriend, who was also an employee at the restaurant, according to the arrest report. Deputies collected the wallet from his girlfriend and found it contained a small plastic bag which held a white powder identified as cocaine. The wallet also contained a cut plastic straw with the residue of cocaine on it. Desjardins was arrested on charges of possession of cocaine and possession of drug paraphernalia. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $3,500 bond. A villager's stolen debit card was used for a $752 purchase at Lowe's home improvement store at Trailwinds Village in Wildwood. Terry Lynn Lee, 55, of Umatilla, was arrested earlier this month in Marion County on a Sumter County warrant charging her with fraud. Lee went to Lowe's on Halloween and used the woman's debit card when checking out the self-checkout aisle at the store. The time of the purchase and the amount matched the transaction on the villager's bank records. The purchase was captured on surveillance. A camera also captured the license plate of the black Chevy truck Lee was driving when she left the store. At the time of her arrest in Marion County, she was also charged with drug possession. She was booked at the Marion County Jail and released after posting a $7,000 bond. Okay, how many holes in ones of golf did we get this week? Looks like one. A villager got a hole-in-one 2 weeks after his wife's lucky ace at the same course. Thomas Pirani of the village of Pinellas got a hole-in-one on March 21st on hole number 10 at the Mickey Lee Pitch and Putt. It was 73 yards using a pitching wedge. Pirani got a hole-in-one 2 weeks ago after his wife, Mary Ann, got a hole-in-one at the same course. Well, congratulations on your hole-in-one there, Thomas. You and your wife both. Have a great time. How about everybody's favorite letters to the editor? Let's see what the complaints are about this week. To the editor, any show with a drag queen nonsense should be advertised as such. Stop trying to pretend this was a Dolly Parton show. If you wish to watch perversion, okay, but don't tell us that this is a show that is a tribute to Dolly Parton. That's sent in by Robert Peary from the Del Webb Spruce Creek. Well, thank you for sending that in. I got to play dumb here. I don't know what this is. Here's another one about the Dolly Parton show. To the editor, my wife and I attended a show at the Sharon L. Morris Performing Arts Center that was advertised as a tribute to Dolly Parton. I was very disappointed. I think a better description of the show would have been a drag queen show with some Dolly Parton songs in it. We walked out after about 15 minutes as well as about 1/3 of the audience. That's sent in by Jack Hooven from the village of Summerhill. To the editor, whenever you see a picture of people at a new restaurant opening, they are always from outside of the villages. Same with people at the town centers or established restaurants. There isn't enough parking or restaurants to accommodate the people that live in the villages as it is. Now outsiders are using the Dabney Megas Road entrances as a way to State Road 44. That's sent in by Philip Pasco from the village of Dabney. I've talked about that many times on this show to the point that I'm just about talked out of it. Be careful where you buy a house. I've said it before and I'll just say it real quick and I'm not going to elaborate on it. Make sure that you're not buying a house on what I call a through street. If you buy a house on a through street, this is the problem you're going to have. Don't complain. If you're not watching my news and all this information I'm giving you, don't complain. Because a through street means everybody around here, because these are public roads. Everybody should know this. All roads inside the villages is public. That means a UPS truck, a semi truck, a dump truck, anybody can use your streets as a shortcut to get to work or to get home. That's just the way it is. So if you don't want to deal with that kind of stuff, don't buy a home that's on a through street. Enough said. To the editor, something needs to be done to control the amenity use by non-residents/guests. Well, that's not true. Because if you have a guest at your house, they are, with the guest pass, they are welcome to use any and all amenities that we have here. So there's no restrictions to that. We frequently overhear people discuss situations where they've learned people who are neither guests nor residents are using facilities for a prolonged period of time. I hear them reports too. I don't know if any of them are true. I have no reason to doubt it, but I don't have no proof that anything that these people are saying is true. There has to be a way of controlling this so that the residents get to use the facilities they are funding. We rarely even go to squares anymore because it is overrun with non-residents and it is extremely crowded. That is true. I don't go to squares anymore either because they're always crowded, super crowded. Now, you say because they're overrun with non-residents. I don't know if that's true. I don't go around asking people for their ID cards, but they are crowded and the parking sometimes can be terrible. We went down to Brownwood today to have lunch with friends of ours at the Gators. I like Gators down there, and we had to park quite a ways away. Everything was full. There was something going on down there. It is destroying the very character of the villages and the reason we moved here in the first place. I don't have an answer for this, but perhaps we need to focus a group to help determine the best way to move forward. That's sent in by Kay Scanlon from the village of Sable Chase. Well, thanks, Kay. Very well said. I agree. Something needs to be done. I don't know what. I don't work in that business. And here's how I put it. It ain't my problem. I moved here for a lot of reasons that a lot of other people moved here. And when it gets to the point that I simply can't do things anymore without fighting about it or fighting traffic all the time, I'm out of here because I don't have to stay here. It's just that simple. Okay, I think that's going to be the news this week. I hope you enjoy it. I hope everybody enjoys the news. If you have, tell your friends, get them to subscribe because everything that I do is all about views. But I do enjoy doing this, and I enjoy everybody that comes to this. I enjoy the comments that I get, the good and the bad. I read them all. And with that being said, I'm just going to get out of here and say thanks, Patreons. Thank everybody that's joined Patreon this week. And thanks, everybody that supports our channel, because without you, I know you get tired of hearing this, but it's just something that's be very hard for us to do. And so with that being said, be well, be safe, take care, be aware, keep your health. That's really what's important. That's the last thing that you really need to worry about is your health.
And don't leave your key in that golf cart.
This week's news is brought to you by my YouTube and Patreon members.